Hold on. Before I tell you what happened when I put down the serving dish, straightened my spine, and let 14 people sit in the most uncomfortable silence of their lives, I need you to feel something first. I need you to feel what it is to arrive at your childhood home the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, arms full of groceries you paid for yourself, and have your mother greet you at the door not with a hug, but with an apron and a list. I need you to feel what it is to spend 17 hours cooking, cleaning, arranging, and setting a table for a holiday that everyone else will enjoy sitting down, while you eat standing at the kitchen counter because somehow, without anyone deciding it explicitly, this is just the role you fill. And then, I need you to feel what it is to hear your father laugh and say to his colleague, "Oh, that's just Kara. She's basically our live-in maid." 14 people laughed. My name is Kara, and this is the story of the Thanksgiving I finally put the serving dish down. Nobody sits you down and assigns you the family workhorse position. That's the insidious thing about it. It accumulates the way debt accumulates when you're not watching the statements. Small withdrawals, reasonable requests, things that individually make sense and collectively build a cage so familiar you stop noticing the bars. I am the oldest of 3. My brother Nate is 31. My sister Claire is 28. I am 36. Nate has always been the charming one, the one whose mess gets cleaned up by whoever is nearest, which was usually me. Claire has always been the fragile one, the one whose feelings require management, whose needs sharpen into urgency whenever attention drifts away from her. And I have always been the one who handles things. I handle things because I am capable. I handle things because I was the oldest and it was expected. I handle things because somewhere very young I learned that being useful was the closest available substitute for being cherished, and I confused the two for a very long time. My parents, Frank and Donna, are not cruel people. I want to say that clearly because this story is not about monsters. It is about something more ordinary and in many ways more damaging than monsters. It is about 2 people who had a capable daughter and never once stopped to ask what it cost her. My father is a recently retired high school principal. My mother ran the local library for 20 years. They are respected in their community. They raised 3 children. They are, by every external measure, good people. They just stopped seeing me somewhere along the way. Not with malice, with comfort. I was reliable. Reliable things don't require attention. Reliable things just work. I should also tell you what they don't know about my life. I'm a senior contracts lawyer at Whitmore and Associates. I passed the bar on my first attempt. I have argued in front of a federal appellate court. I negotiated a settlement last spring that saved my client $31 million and made the cover of a regional legal trade publication. My parents know I'm a lawyer the way they know I prefer coffee to tea. It's a fact they hold without weight. It has never once come up at a family dinner with the same warmth and pride they deploy when Nate mentions a new restaurant he's managing or Claire finishes another online certification course. I stopped trying to make them see it around the time I turned 33. This Thanksgiving, I came back because it had been 2 years since I'd been home for the holiday. I came back because my mother called and said she missed me. I came back because I am, apparently, still capable of hopping. I arrived Wednesday afternoon with 4 bags of groceries from the good market, not the one my parents shop at. I'd planned the entire menu on the train. Turkey brine, scratch gravy, a butternut squash soup that takes 3 hours, 2 pies, a cranberry situation that required actual technique. My mother greeted me with a hug, a list of what still needed doing, and the observation that the living room needed to be rearranged before tomorrow's guests. My father was watching television. Nate arrived that evening with his girlfriend, Priya, and a bottle of wine he presented like a contribution. He sat at the kitchen island and talked to me while I cooked. I want to be fair, he offered twice to help. I said I was fine. That's on me. I've been saying I'm fine for so long it stopped meaning anything. Claire arrived at 9 p.m., tired and slightly dramatic about her drive, and my mother wrapped around her immediately, concerned and soothing, while I finished the pie crusts. I went to bed at midnight. I woke up at 6. Here is what I did on Thanksgiving Day, before a single guest arrived. I brined the turkey overnight and got it in the oven by 7:30. I made the soup from scratch. I set the table with the good china that lives in the hutch my grandmother left, the china nobody touches because nobody knows where anything is except me. I arranged 14 place settings. I polished the serving pieces. I made 2 kinds of pie. I prepped every side dish to the point of completion so they only needed finishing heat. I vacuumed the living room. I cleaned the powder room. I put fresh hand towels out. I did all of this while my father read the paper. Nate and Priya slept until 10, and Claire managed the significant personal effort of doing her hair. My mother helped with the last hour of cooking. I want to credit that. She made the green beans and she refilled my coffee and she said, "Kara, everything looks just beautiful," in the tone she uses when she's genuinely pleased, but doesn't know how to go further than that. The guests started arriving at 2. Here is who came to Thanksgiving. My father's colleague Raymond and his wife Linda, who I'd met perhaps twice. Their adult son Brett, who coaches youth soccer and has opinions about everything. My mother's sister, Aunt Carol, and her husband Pete. Their 2 adult daughters, my cousins Melissa and Jenna, who are effortlessly warm and who I actually like. My parents' neighbors, Glenn and Harriet, who have been coming to Thanksgiving for 11 years. Glenn and Harriet's daughter, Nicole, who had brought her new boyfriend, a man named Thomas who looked slightly overwhelmed to be meeting this many people at once. 14 guests, 14 people I'd been cooking for since 6 in the morning. I was still in the kitchen when they all arrived. Of course I was. It was Raymond, my father's colleague Raymond, with his large voice and his seasonal bonhomie, who wandered into the kitchen doorway while I was ladling soup into the good tureen. "Frank," he called back to the living room, "who's this in here doing all the work?" My father appeared in the doorway. He looked at me. He smiled the easy smile of a man who is relaxed in his home on a holiday. And he said it. "Oh, that's just Kara," a small laugh. The kind that invites the room to share in a gentle joke. "She's basically our live-in maid." Raymond laughed, the big warm laugh of a man who thinks he's participating in family affection. I heard it spread. I heard it move from the doorway into the living room the way things travel in open-plan spaces. Heard Nate's surprised laugh, which was the one that hurt most. Heard Claire's giggle, high and automatic. Heard Harriet say something to Glenn in a low voice followed by quiet amusement. 14 people. I stood at the stove with a ladle in my hand. And I made a decision. I put the ladle down. I untied the apron, folded it, set it on the counter with the particular deliberateness of someone setting something down that they will not be picking back up. I walked out of the kitchen. I walked into the living room where most of the guests were assembled, and I found a seat on the sofa next to my cousin Melissa, and I sat down. I did not explain. I did not announce. I did not say a single word. I just stopped. The absence of sound from the kitchen is a very specific thing at Thanksgiving. People don't notice kitchens when they're producing noise and warmth and the smell of things cooking. They notice them immediately when they go quiet. My mother appeared in the kitchen doorway after approximately 4 minutes, looking at the stove with an expression of confused concern. She looked at me. I looked back at her pleasantly. "Kara, the soup." "It's ready," I said. "It just needs to be carried in." A pause. "Could you?" "I've been cooking since 6 this morning, Mom," I said, pleasantly, clearly, without a tremor. "I'm going to sit down now." The room went the specific quiet of people who have realized they are witnessing something real. Raymond, to his credit, looked like a man who was beginning to regret his laugh. My father stared at me with an expression I had never seen on his face before. It was not anger. It was the look of a man encountering information he does not yet know how to process. "The soup's in the tureen," I continued, in the same pleasant voice. "The turkey needs to come out in about 20 minutes. The sides are all prepped. Everything's labeled." I looked around the room. Does anyone know how to make gravy? Because I'm happy to explain it. Silence. Then Thomas, Nicole's overwhelmed new boyfriend, who had been trying to be invisible for the past hour, raised his hand slightly. "I can make gravy," he said. We ate. Of course we ate. Holidays have a momentum that personal crises cannot fully stop, which is both the tragedy and the mercy of them. Thomas made the gravy. It was genuinely good. Melissa and Jenna carried dishes without being asked. Priya, Nate's girlfriend, finished the sides with quiet competence while Nate stood next to her looking like a man actively reconsidering several life choices. My father carved the turkey. He did it in silence. I sat at the table. For the first time at a family Thanksgiving that I could remember, I sat at the table for the entire meal. Nobody brought me a plate at the kitchen counter. Nobody expected me to jump up between courses. I sat, and I ate, and I talked to my cousins, and I watched my family recalibrate around an absence they had never noticed was a presence. The conversation was careful. The laughter was quieter than usual. Raymond did not make any more jokes. My mother kept looking at me, not with anger, with something more complicated. The expression of a woman who is turning something over and over and not liking the shape of it. After dessert, which Melissa served, my father asked if anyone wanted coffee. I noticed he asked. He didn't look at me when he asked. He asked the table. Small, but real. They came to find me separately. That's how I knew it had landed. Aunt Carol first, who hugged me in the kitchen where I was finally, at my own pace, covering leftovers. She didn't say much, just held on a beat longer than usual and said, "I see you, sweetheart," into my shoulder. I had to work very hard to keep my face neutral after that. Then Melissa, who sat on the counter while I worked, and said quietly, "How long has it been like this?" "Always," I said. She nodded like she'd known. Then my father. He came in alone, which was not something Frank did easily. My father processes feelings the way people process difficult paperwork. He puts them in a pile and deals with them when the pile becomes unavoidable. Tonight, apparently, the pile had become unavoidable. "Kara," he said. I turned around. He looked like the end of something, not in a frightening way. In the way that men look when they've been carrying a version of themselves that no longer quite fits and they're starting to feel the seams. "I shouldn't have said that," he said. "What I said to Raymond. It was wrong, it was thoughtless and wrong." I looked at my father, 64 years old. Good man, imperfect man. A man who had a capable daughter and spent 36 years being comfortable with how capable she was without once asking what it cost her. "Do you know what I do, Dad?" I said. "For work, do you know specifically what I do?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "I'm a senior contracts lawyer," I said. "I argued in federal appellate court this year. I saved a client $31 million in a settlement negotiation last spring. I was published in a legal trade journal." His face moved through several expressions. "I didn't." "I know you didn't know," I said. "That's what I need you to sit with. Not that you said the wrong thing tonight, that you didn't know, after 36 years, because knowing would have required asking, and nobody in this family has ever asked." He sat down at the kitchen table, heavy, like the air had gotten thick. "I'm asking now," he said quietly. I looked at him for a long time. "I know," I said. "I know you are." We sat together in the kitchen for a long time after that. Me covering dishes. Him sitting at the table, listening, actually listening, while I told him about the appellate argument and the settlement and the team I was building and the version of myself I'd become in the years since I'd stopped waiting for this family to make room for her. He didn't say much, but he stayed. That was new. That was enough. For tonight, it was enough. I woke up at 7, old habit. The house was quiet in the thick, particular way of the morning after a holiday. I went downstairs. The kitchen was clean. Not clean the way it gets when I clean it at midnight because it needs doing. Clean the way it gets when multiple people have worked together. The dishes were done. The good china was washed and stacked. The serving pieces were dried. My father was at the table with coffee. He'd made a full pot. He poured me a cup without being asked. I sat across from him, and wrapped my hands around the mug, and we sat in a silence that felt nothing like the silences of the years before it. "Nate and Claire helped last night," he said. "After you went to bed." I looked at him. "I asked them to," he said simply. I nodded, looked down at my coffee, felt something loosen in my chest that I hadn't known was still held tight. Then my phone vibrated on the table. A text from a number I didn't recognize, a New York area code. I picked it up. "Hi, Kara, this is Thomas, Nicole's boyfriend from yesterday. I hope this isn't strange. I got your number from Nicole because I wanted to reach out professionally. I work at Caldwell Partners and we've been trying to reach someone at Whitmore and Associates about a case. A big one. Your name came up." I stared at the screen. Thomas, the man who had made the gravy. I typed back, "How big?" His reply came in under 30 seconds. And when I read the number he wrote, I set my phone face down on the table and looked at my father with an expression I didn't have words for. Because the case Thomas was describing was not just large. It was connected to a name I recognized. A name that appeared in my family's history in a way I had never fully understood. A connection that, if what Thomas was suggesting was accurate, meant that this Thanksgiving had not been a coincidence at all. That someone had known I would be here, and had sent Thomas to find me. "Kara," my father was watching me. "What's wrong?" I looked up at him. "Dad," I said slowly, "what do you actually know about how you got your first job?" His coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. "Why?" he said. Why was Thomas really at that Thanksgiving table? What connects his case to my family's past? And why does my father look like he already knows the answer? Part 2 is coming, but right now I need to hear from you. Have you ever been the one who handles everything while everyone else sits down? Tell me in the comments. Because I think you already know exactly how this kitchen felt. And I think you deserve to be seen too.